Yo, what's up, guys? It's me, Ahmad Abdel Karim, and I'm here with Clifford Starks. And today we're going to be talking about the perfect balance between having your spiritual side down, having a good foundation to go out into the world and take action from there. Get your elbows in the mud with your head in the sky, okay? So Clifford here used to be a UFC fighter, and so he knows all about, getting your knees in the mud, getting your elbows in the mud, and facing your fears and whatnot. And so, Clifford, I just want to ask you really quickly, how do you deal with fear, and what are the mindsets you kind of have when, in terms of going into fearful situations that you kind of know you have to do for your own growth?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with fear is realizing it's always going to be there, and really finding a way to shrink in that voice. So the best way you shrink in the voice is by doing the process that is fearful, or what makes your fears come out, as many times as you can. Stay consistent with it until that fear gets smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point you don't even hear the voice anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, as I was telling you a second ago, like for about a year and a half straight, I would go out consistently every day because I had so much social anxiety. I would go out consistently and socialize with people, and I made it like an everyday thing. So I love that you say that. It has to be a consistent thing for you to become comfortable with it, because otherwise, I mean, if you do it for like a little bit and then drop off, and then do it for a little bit and then drop off, the fear will always be there and you'll never have like a full control over it. But versus if you go out consistently, face this fear, and constantly kind of put your knees in it, eventually you become desensitized to it, and it becomes like, like eating a piece of cake, right?
Absolutely.
And I just want to add on to that, to give like the kind of like inner game side. You can really only do one thing at a time when it comes to this, right? I mean, you can face all your fears every day, but that's going to be overwhelming, and chances are you're going to give up. So, Gary Vee and Tony Robbins talk about this a lot. They actually made an interview where they talked about this. Basically, you have to choose one thing to master at a time. And usually when you want to master something, so for you, it was fighting, right? It was UFC. You kind of have to face that one fear over and over. So every day, you would go and you would practice and you would fight somebody and what have you. And you have like all these punches coming at you. And so, you kind of want to focus on one thing at a time. And for me, it was going out and socializing, right? And then once I got over that fear, once I kind of, had that handled or mastered that, then you move on to the next thing. But I truly believe that if you kind of focus on too many things at once, it's going to become overwhelming, and you're going to kind of like fall off. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you tell someone to juggle 18 things and they don't even know how to juggle 2 or 3, everything's going to fall, and then they're going to get frustrated.
Yeah.
So what it really comes down to is focusing your attention span and your energy in one direction. With that said, when you do that, you actually will find success faster in the next thing that you do. I think sometimes we're a little bit too linear in our thinking. And so, for instance, there's a book called Outliers, and it talks about to master something, it takes 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I wholeheartedly agree that yes, it does take 10,000 hours to master your first thing. But as you master your first thing, you learn to master other things much faster, because you know the process and you know the pursuits that you have to take.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, you always see people that like lose like say 100 to 150 pounds and whatnot, and then they go on to like do bigger things. They go on to like build a successful business and do all this other stuff. And it's because they mastered that first thing of like health, right? Health and wellness. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And for me, it was after I kind of mastered that, whole like socializing thing and whatnot, I kind of went on to do other things and began building a business with that. And so for sure, you can kind of like more easily master other stuff because you know the process and you know the steps you have to take, and you understand that it takes patience as well as discipline to kind of go through that process. And so you kind of develop, it's almost like you develop the inner game or the correct mindsets that you need to go on and further master other stuff. But when you're first starting out, mastering your first thing, you have all this conditioning from society and whatnot, and you're like, your brain's all over the place and you can't really focus your mind. So it's really that first thing that's always the hardest. But once you kind of go through that process and it changes you, definitely everything else you do from there becomes easier, becomes more simple. and you have that good foundation to go on and master other stuff and plant other seeds in different aspects of your life. So yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, going along with that, it's like the self-awareness, right? When you like go out and you face your fears and you do stuff that you're afraid to do, it really forces you to confront these little demons inside of you, right? And so
Hmm.
because you're forced to confront these things inside of you, it's like, you have to go in and let, like, say, traumas go, right? Childhood traumas or traumas from your past. You have to like let fears go. You have to let kind of like your own negativity or your own worst enemy kind of go. And so because you're forced to face that, it really builds this self-awareness within you that you can carry on into other aspects of your life as well. So yeah, do you
Yeah.
feel like fighting has kind of built that discipline and self-awareness within you?
I've had some other things build self-discipline. That was definitely another step forward on moving in my journey.
Hmm.
One of the biggest things that I say is, even you mentioning our society can condition us a little bit. Yeah, that's unbelievably true, to the point that we become conditioned not only by society but the people that we surround ourselves with.
Mm.
So um, I say there's several subtle truths in the world,
Hmm.
and some people say just hang around people who are loving and supporting of you,
Mm.
right? So that's like the new trend right now. Only surround yourself with those who will lift you up. And I say surround yourself with those who will lift you up first, because you have to build a base. You have to build a solid foundation.
Mm.
But after that, every now and again, test yourself. Surround yourself with people who are gonna try and break you down.
Mm.
Because that's where you get really strong. That's where the lessons are in both.
Mm.
Just like an individual looking to build stamina, looking to improve in maybe their push-ups,
Mm.
they have to tear the muscle down, but they also have to rest and recover.
Mm.
So you need a little bit of everything in order to get to where you're looking to go. If you're looking to, my message is greatness within. Well,
Mm.
greatness within means you're going to shine bright no matter what, no matter how dark it gets, you
Mm.
can shine bright.
Yeah.
You don't know how bright you can shine if you're never around any darkness.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, no, I mean, that's huge because for me, I feel like whenever I go out and kind of socialize with people, you have different kinds of people, right? So some people are going to be nice and respectful towards you versus other people who are not going to be so much so, right? They're going to kind of give you a hard
Yeah.
time. And so for me, the way I look at it, it's kind of like a training ground to build that kind of firm confidence within myself. Because if you have people throwing crap at you, right, or throwing like bad energy at you, it's like, it's easy to kind of have that self-awareness, that presence when you're not being challenged, right? But versus if you're being challenged and you can still hold that, it makes it that much stronger and it makes your confidence that much more firm. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like everything else begins to become easier as well, because you're kind of testing yourself and building that confidence within yourself. So yeah, definitely agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um
I mean, that's what it really comes down to.
mm. Yeah, and I feel like there's definitely a spiritual aspect to it too, right? With going out and facing your fears and going out and mastering whatever it is that you're trying to master. And there's definitely the spiritual side because you know I mean, if you don't like the way I see it is like this, okay? Having awareness of yourself and having that presence, right? That present energy within you, it kind of
Hmm.
it's and like I call it like being grounded in your spirit, right? When you
Hmm.
have that, it's like having a solid foundation to a house, right? Because if you don't have a solid foundation to a house, what are you going to build on top of that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
anything you do build on top of that, it's going to be easily like crumbled, right? And so for me, in my own personal experience, when I first started out in personal development and building on myself, whatnot, I kind of neglected that aspect, right? That spiritual aspect of developing myself, and I kind of just focused on getting results and building my relationships, building my business, getting money and whatnot. And because I neglected that aspect of myself, what began to happen was I slowly crumbled, right? I mean, I almost felt it like I was going into a darker and darker world, right? Like my own subjective world was becoming more and more dark. And so I feel like, something higher was kind of like trying to call my attention towards this. It's like, hey, you have this dark energy within you, confront it, right? Let it process it, let it go. And then from there, it'd be so much easier to kind of work on yourself and build yourself. And if you want to get results in the physical world, it'll be that much easier if you build that solid foundation. But the problem is that a lot of people don't want to do that, right? They don't want to kind of process this darkness within themselves, this dark energy within them, because it's almost like moving backwards a little bit, right? I mean, if you have this darkness within you, it's like you kind of have to neglect what you've been working on for so long and go back to the root, go back to the foundation, rebuild the foundation, remove what's not working in the foundation. And then from there, you have a clear, solid foundation to build off of. But it's almost like restarting a game, right? It's almost like you go back to your first checkpoint and restart. But you kind of have to if you haven't confronted that, because I mean, you can only like run away from that for so long, right? I mean, you can like if you're running away from a serial killer for hours and hours, eventually you're going to run out of energy. You're going to be too tired. You're going to have to stop, and you're going to have to confront the serial killer and either fight or flight, right? And it's the same thing with confronting your own demons. Here's another analogy. Okay. If that one's a little confusing, here's another analogy. Imagine you're climbing Mount Everest and someone kind of tied a rope to you, and this rope kind of puts some pressure. It puts some extra unnecessary pressure on you, and this rope, right, stays attached to you from the bottom of the mountain. And so you're climbing up this mountain, and there's this little rope just kind of like tugging at you the whole time. It's like, it's kind of annoying, but you're just pretending it's not there and you're ignoring it. And you get so high, you can only get so high until this thing just becomes a little too much. And it's like, all right, eventually you're going to have to go back down to the bottom, untie that thing, get it off of you, and then climb the mountain from there. So that way you can do it properly and enjoy the process of actually climbing this mountain. Because if this rope is tied to you the entire time, it's not going to be fun, number one. And number two, it's not sustainable. It's going to make you too tired. And what's the whole point of the whole thing if it's not going to be enjoyable, right? And so I always tell my friends, and I tell people that I meet and that I coach, it's like, you neglecting this kind of spiritual side within you and this dark energy within you and this childhood trauma, your dark past, you're really doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing your spirit a disservice, because it's like if you had a child and you neglected it, right? I mean, that's part of you. That's an aspect of you that you're just completely neglecting. And so that's why people lack confidence. Like, even millionaires, right? Even highly successful people, some of them do this thing where they neglect this dark aspect of themselves. And you can kind of sense when you speak with them or when you're around them, it's like something's off, right? Even though they have millions of dollars, something's still off, and you can sense like something's bothering them, right? And it's in the background. A lot of people have this background hum of emotional frustration, and it's because there's emotions, there's aspects of themselves, there's their past selves from their childhood that's kind of trying to get their attention to, like, hey, acknowledge me, process this thing so that you can let it go and be free from it. But so many people are convinced that it just simply doesn't work like that, and that life kind of has to be hard, but it doesn't have to. The way I see it, it's like if you just let go of this stuff, it can be a lot easier, and there's no pressure on you, and it's all on you, right? So that's the way I see it.
Yeah. I mean, I believe there's a lot of variables behind it. Like, I love both analogies, actually. Whether you're running from a serial killer or you're tied to the point you can't climb Mount Everest anymore. What I do personally like to do, and this took several years to get to, is I create my own reality, no matter what. To the point, I create my own reality, but I also let other people look at their own reality.
Yeah.
So I can tell a person what they have to do. But just telling a person what they have to do is not enough for people. Yeah. Like, if you tell them the steps and they're not ready to hear the steps, they're not going to do it. But if I take the time to listen to their story and understand their story and empathize with their story, they'll be more inclined to understand and empathize with mine. And my story is you have responsibility for your life. My story is you're capable of doing whatever you want to do, but you have to have a strategic plan to do it. You have to understand where you want to go, and you have to take the necessary steps. So with that being said, I can tell a person, yeah, you can keep trying to climb Mount Everest with that rope around you, or be frustrated that you can't go any further and you would have to backtrack. You get that option. You get the option to play victim. You get the option to say it's not fair. You get the option to blame everybody but yourself. That's your option. But you have to accept the consequences with the options that you've given yourself. And when I give it that way, that makes them more inclined to want to do something different and want to, like, maybe I'll give this a shot. You know, everybody that I've ever worked with, and I've only had one bad incident with a client, and I've had a lot of clients. And all the other ones that I've worked with have never blamed me for anything, for their failures. Because it's not, I'm going to give 100%. That's all I can do. But if they choose to only give 50%, they will get their 50% result. And they accept it.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing else to it. It's like you can give some, you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't force them to drink. You can only give someone information. You can't force them to kind of ingest it and actually use it and apply it. And you see this all the time. You see this all the time where people kind of know what they should be doing, but for whatever reason, self-sabotage, self-image issues, they're not able to do it, right? Or just simple laziness, right? Whatever it is. I mean, you see it all the time, right? And so, but me personally, I believe something that would help with that, laziness, self-image issues, self-sabotage, whatever it is, that's holding people back from doing what they know they're supposed to do. It's kind of this inner energetic work, right? Because I believe personally that nobody's naturally lazy. And Tony Robbins has a quote where he says, people aren't lazy. It's just they have goals that don't inspire them, right? And you have that along with the fact that many people, because of societal conditioning, because of childhood conditioning, cultural conditioning, can't see themselves being successful. So, you'll tell people the right thing. You'll tell them, read this book that's going to help you. You'll tell them, hey, take this advice, it's going to help you. But because they're not aligned or they're not resonating with success yet, they will find ways to avoid it. And so that's the way I see it. It's the fact that they're not doing it. It's a very surface level issue. If you look beneath the surface, you'll find that they kind of don't resonate with success yet, or they don't resonate with this thing you're giving them that will lead them towards success. And so for me, something that's huge with my coaching is I really, really try to stress this, that if you work on that inner energetic aspect and kind of release this dark energy, it will kind of allow the surface level issues to be exposed that much easier. And so you won't be like fighting against your own laziness. You'll have the self-awareness to realize, okay, what's the real reason that I don't feel like working on this? What's the real reason that, I'm not doing what I know I'm supposed to do? And a lot of times it's because you'll find that there's some sort of issue inside of you that's kind of hindering your vision from seeing yourself as this person that can make it, right? And so that's how I see it for me.
Yeah, I mean, even with what Tony Robbins talks about, he's good. He's been coaching for a really, really long time. And the biggest issue with an individual is the individual themselves. That's very true. It's the same thing as when you can talk to a person a certain way, that's the inspiration, getting them to the inspiration. It's a moment. But it's also having several moments in time. Because think about, if I were to meet someone who's been uninspired for 10 years of their life, and I go to talk to them and they become inspired, they want to do something, they want to take action, it's going to take practice and it takes energy to maintain that, because there's going to be times when that process can be hard. There's going to be times where that person might even say, man, I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. And that's when you're not inspired anymore, and you have to stop yourself from doing that. So it's all those little habits that you've created from a process that you have to recreate new habits to the point where you're like, you know what, I am confident in me. I am confident in my abilities. And so the more confident I get people in their abilities consistently through fear, through doubt, through aggression, through undecided, unknowing, through whatever mess they may be in. Having that confidence is huge because you'll find an answer. You always find an answer. It's like one of my sayings is the opportunities are in the obstacles. And I say that consistently with the people that I work with, because then you'll look for something and you'll find something. But if you don't believe, if you just see it as an obstacle, if you see it as a problem, it's always going to be a problem, and you'll never see an opportunity there.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I mean, and the way I see it also, it's like confidence has two sides to it, right? Number one, it's kind of having that self-awareness, that groundedness within yourself, and kind of clearing yourself of that negative energy. And then the other side is obviously going out into the world and getting results, right? Because you only have so much confidence from, being grounded in yourself, and that will provide you with a firm sense of confidence. But when it comes to confidence in terms of knowing you can do something, you have to give your brain proof, not promises, right? And so I'm totally before that. I'm not like, I'm not the kind of person that's like, oh, just focus on spiritual and neglect the physical. Of course, everyone wants results and we all want happiness as well, right? So why not just have both, right? People believe you can only have one or the other, but in reality, you can have both, but you kind of have to take care of your inner demons, do the inner work, as well as go out into the world, put yourself out there, face your fears and conquer your fears and actually get the result, because it is difficult sometimes, right? But you kind of have to push through that resistance and use a little bit of force, but going within and retaining your power, right? So it's power versus force. And you need both, actually. So yeah, confidence definitely comes from these two things of actually going out into the world, getting the result, and having the self-awareness, having the presence, and having the stillness within. So yeah, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just off of what you said, having both is a necessity. Just being happy, just to be happy and do nothing with that happiness, it would drive a person crazy. The same thing as just finding consistent success with no happiness, that would drive a person crazy. Both need to work together to the point they make movies out of this stuff. Like at the end of the day, they have your hero who goes through an issue, who overcomes the issue, and maybe the hero changes, or maybe even the hero stays the same despite the issue. And that's one thing that inspires people. Like we all have it in us. We just need the right people in our lives to help us practice it, to help us understand it, to help us tailor it. That's what a coach helps you do. And the biggest thing is, it was really funny. I was talking with another coach, and me and him were talking, and he was mentioning how my clients come back to me. And he goes, as a coach, your client should only need you for 1 year. And I go, as a coach, I'm continually growing. I'm not stopping. I'm not just done. I haven't figured it all out. So I always want to grow. I always want to move further. I always want to learn more. I'm not done. And my clients see that about me, because I'm constantly going to test them. Because I go around people who constantly test me. I'm not, until I'm dead, I'm not done. I always want to grow. I always want to learn. I always want to achieve more. And I always want to figure out a little bit more each day. I want to learn a little bit more each day. And he kind of stood back about it. He's like, that actually makes sense. Made him think a little bit, move him in the direction of maybe I should start. Because you don't get your degree and just say, I've got it all figured out. Let me hang my degree on the wall.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, this should never stop. This is definitely an ongoing process. I mean, at the age of 70, you should still be reading books. I mean, you see Warren Buffett. I mean, how old is he now? He's like past the age of 70, and he still reads he reads a book a day, I think, or something like that. I'm not even sure. He reads for 8 hours a day or something crazy. He reads newspapers. He reads everything. And the man's still growing. He's still looking at different companies to invest in. He's still looking to expand and to grow. And so definitely this should never stop. And the way to make it easiest for yourself to continuously grow and never stop is to have both of these aspects down of the spirituality, of the personal growth, and the getting results and whatnot, and the confidence, and combine these two. And right there, you have a big ball of something extraordinary, right? So that's the way I see it. So I want to thank you a lot, Clifford, for doing this video with me. I really love having your perspective on here as a UFC fighter, as someone that has really gotten his elbows in the mud and seen what it's like to really face some intense fears like that. So definitely appreciate having your perspective on here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. And I hope to see you again, bro.
All right. Sounds good. You take care.
You too.